They were talking about everything from SpaceX to talent to the future of work. And that I really realized that AI just wasn't a technology story. It was a human system story and a human evolution story. And then the takeaway from that is that I had a choice.
Hello and welcome to the Health Tech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Adam Chirinas. Thank you to you for listening, and thank you to our great sponsors, the wonderful people at HIMSS, and also the wonderful people at Healthcare Now Radio, the 24/7 digital radio and podcast network for healthcare IT pros. Today, I'm going to be joined by a good friend, Susan Roth. I first got to know Susan when she worked at CTG. And she's a long-time B2B marketing expert. And she's been on a really interesting journey over the last year to 18 months. And that's basically helping bring her team and bring herself up the AI learning curve. And this is a curve that we're all dealing with right now. It doesn't matter whether you're a novice with AI or you've been using it for a few years, or even if you're a developer, we're all still figuring this stuff out. And for marketers like us who are at the early stage of the journey, it really can be pretty overwhelming. And what you're going to learn today by listening to Susan's story is how she got started. What was the inflection point which got her to get moving down the AI literacy journey? And then taking that next really big step from learning about it and using it day to day to actually start building stuff. So Susan, a year into it, is building agents, agentic workflows, and all kinds of things with some tools that she's learned how to use. It's a really impressive story, and I think you're going to learn a lot. So with that, let's get on with the show. Hello, Susan. Welcome to the show. I'm so delighted you're here. Let's start things off by hearing a little bit about your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. My journey, I've done a lot of things in my career. I started my first career as a travel agent, believe it or not. I was a travel agent for about 10 years, and I've done a million things in between. I've been a tech writer. I've been an events guru. I've been a marketing leader for the majority of my career now. So I've been a marketing leader for about 20 years.
Well, you must have started in your teens.
You're very kind.
We met each other when you were working at CTG. So, one of the things that's interesting about you from an industry perspective is you worked in a lot of different industries, but heavily focused on demand and B2B. And what piqued my interest is we'd sort of lost touch over the last year or so. But I sort of saw you pop up on LinkedIn and showing the stuff that you were doing with AI. And I thought, wow, when last time I talked to Susan, which wasn't that long ago, AI wasn't really that much of an issue. And in that relatively short period, you have come up that learning curve and you're doing some things with AI that are, that are impressive. So let's start with, what was your AI moment?
My AI moment. So the journey has been kind of crazy. At CTG, I started a literacy program. And from there, it was just kind of a deep dive when I got laid off a year ago. In July of last year, I got laid off. So, I was doing a lot of exploring and what I wanted to do with my life and where I was going to go next. I think the AI moment for me, it was November of 23 before I left CTG. I had watched a Gartner webinar. It was 7 disruptions that you may not see coming. And, we were a year out at that point from the ChatGPT moment that everybody remembers, and I was expecting a year-end forecast and the typical thing that you would hear, but they were really talking about AI in a way that I had not experienced before. They were talking about everything from SpaceX to talent to the future of work. And that I really realized that AI just wasn't a technology story. It was a human system story and a human evolution story. And then the takeaway from that is that I had a choice. I could integrate AI into my workflow and really explore it and learn everything I could about it right now, or risk getting left on the sidelines and in the dust.
I think that's amazing. I think that anybody listening to this should think about those words. That's very profound. When you were sharing AI, what you were learning about AI with your colleagues, how do they react? I mean, this is a year ago, so, ChatGPT was already a thing and Claude was already a thing. But so I'm curious, like, how do they react and adapt?
There was a lot of mixed reactions. There was all over the board. There were your early adopters, and there were mostly your laggards and people who were really scared on my team, especially. You had heard all kinds of things, even then AI is coming for your job. There was a lot of fear, and it's such a new something that nobody knew what to do or how to start. So yeah, the emotions were all over the place. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And you've invested your own time and frankly, spending your own money on becoming AI literate. Tell us about that journey.
So I started the literacy program at CTG is simply because there was nobody doing it. And, I was feeling like we were getting, as a team, we were really getting behind. And by the summer of 23, I just was on the way to my lake house with my husband. I'm quiet, the wheels are turning, and he's just like, what are you thinking about? And I said, I just have to figure out a way to get the team on board, how to get us to move faster. So over that, long holiday weekend, I brainstormed a literacy program, came back, pitched it to my CMO. We kept it low cost. We kept it optional. We branded it to make it less intimidating and more fun. So kind of Paint Your Way was born. So productivity and AI to nurture talent. And so that was really important from me from a leadership perspective and an AI literacy perspective, not only to teach myself to kind of bring the team along with it. I think from my entire AI journey, when I was at CTG, they had a subscription to Marketing Profs, and Marketing Profs has an annual event called B2B Forum. And that was the beginning of my deep dive. There were multiple leaders in the space of every marketing discipline, Christopher Penn and Katie Robert, data scientists and marketers and deep in the space. Andy Crestodina is an SEO expert, and just learning from them how they were integrating AI into their day-to-day, into their workflows was really enlightening for me. In the beginning, Allie K. Miller, she's a definite leader in space. I took her course early on. And I think she and Paul Reitzer at Marketing AI Institute were both hugely impactful on my AI learning journey. And they taught me so much, and they were just showing me what's possible. So it was really kind of enlightening.
I'm familiar with many of the folks that you mentioned. I think I subscribe to most of their newsletters. And I'm a big fan of Paul Reitzer. I listen to his podcast religiously. And actually, thanks to you, I'm going to MACON, MACON is the annual marketing AI conference. And I think it's the 7th. And I think when they started it, maybe they had 200 or 300 people. Now it's 2,000, 3,000, something like that. And I'm really excited about that. So, you're like me, you're not a tech person. You're not a techie, right? I mean, I don't think you've got a degree in computer science. No, nor do I. No, you're like me. You're a marketing person from way back. But, a lot of what you're doing is self-taught. And so I'm really curious to know how you've come up that learning curve, particularly learning some sort of technical things. I saw you doing some things with some sort of agentic type things. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think in the beginning, the biggest learning curve is, aside from learning basic prompting, which tool to use when, the biggest learning curve was just changing my behavior, shifting my behavior. I think in the beginning, everyone uses AI like a search engine and a strategic thought partner. I think the agentic workflow path has just been crazy. I don't even know when I started paying attention to that. Yes, I do. I recall leaders in the space, Mark Benioff at Salesforce and Dharmesh Shah at HubSpot with his agent AI. You see these trends in the market, and they're talking about agents and they're talking about agentic workflows. And I really thought, I need to understand this. I need to understand how they work. I need to understand why you would use them. And then, you start looking at these and they're not really affordable for a lot of companies. So from a workflow and understanding agents perspective, I was like, I need to figure this out to see if I could just build them for my own business.
Yes, absolutely. And once you came to that decision, how did you get started? Because that's quite overwhelming. I think just to sort of pause a second, from the research that we've done in our market and other research that I've seen, I think the majority of people have kind of gone up that sort of first part of the learning curve. Of, like, to your point, they're using it. Many people are just using it like glorified search engines. Lots of people are using it for writing content because it's doing that better and better. And some people are using it for things like image generation, maybe creating personalized emails, even creating personas. That's kind of where the use cases stop. And so you've gone several steps beyond that. So once you said, okay, I need to start taking some steps with agents and taking a more agentic approach to that, how did you get started? Why did you get over that hump?
Well, you definitely don't go it alone. I would have no idea even where to begin. I've been in a lot of different communities, AI communities, marketing communities, and you hear a lot of courses. There's a lot of noise out there, and you just sometimes don't know where to start. But when you start hearing the same names bubble up, like you're familiar with Paul, the reputation kind of precedes them. And so I had heard about an AI build lab with Tyler Fisk and Sarah Davison, and had attended a few of their free courses on Maven, just an hour intro. And just, I was seeing what they were building and how they were doing it. And I was just blown away. And I'm like, I have to take your course. So it's intense. They have a 4-week foundations course that's a prerequisite to their 10-week AI build lab. And the 4 weeks, they set the stage, they give you all of the best practices, but then the 10-week is like a graduate level class, and it's a deep dive.
Wow. And so, I mean, how much time is involved in the 4-week and then the 10-week?
So the 4 weeks, so they offer, it's a 90-minute live every Monday. And then Thursday and Friday are, all of it is optional, and you can listen to recordings if your schedule doesn't allow. So they have an additional 90-minute homework session on Thursdays, and they have another 90-minute session on Friday. And aside from that, so those are the lives, and then they have self-guided study, and it depends on the week. I was spending probably for foundations 8 to 12 hours of, my own time and just watching videos and re-watching videos and doing homework, and they give you assignments and that kind of thing. So for foundations, 8 to 12 hours aside from the lives. But a build lab is a different story. It's quite intense, and it's an exceptionally larger investment of time.
Tell me about Build Lab. What's involved there and how much time?
They'll probably not want me to say this publicly, but it's the same setup from a live perspective. There's 3 lives a week, and I do morning before work and after work, and it's usually about 20 to 24 hours a week.
Wow. That is intense. Mm-hmm. Hats off to you for doing that, because you've got an intense day job. I know you're really good at it. And so doing something before and after work like that for basically 14 weeks, right? I mean, that is intense. That's extraordinary. Yeah. So kudos to you for doing that. So you've gone through the 14 weeks of intense training. Then what?
I'm doing it again.
No way. What do you mean?
I'm doing it again. Yeah. So the last week of cohort, I was in cohort 5, is your capstone project, and you submit that. And then the next build lab started the Monday after, and I started again the Monday after. The majority of their students go through the program twice. It is such a cognitive overload. You're learning not only the tools and all the things that, you're learning things about system instructions and evaluations and temperature and all of the things that I didn't even know existed. So you're learning all of those concepts, you're learning best practices, you're learning the how, but you're also learning all of these other tools. They use Cassidy and Notion primarily, and Typing Mind in their course. So you're learning all of those new tools, and just and they're so generous. They have so many bonus sessions. Like, I couldn't get through all of the bonus sessions because there was just so much content and there's only so many hours in the day. So now that I've done it once, I can go and I can just listen and participate and do the activities, and they give you an opportunity to branch off and do your own projects. So it's really cool because I'm bringing my own consulting work and projects to the table, and they give me guidance and they walk through and give me ideas. Well, maybe you should try it this way, or you should, build this agent to support this workflow. And it's been really amazing and super cool and fun. Like, I'm a builder. Marketers, we build things, we build brands, we build events, we build campaigns, we build. And I think a lot of marketers have that methodical, systematic approach to getting a job done. And it just is a really natural progression and parlay into agentic workflows.
I want to get into agentic workflows and what you build, how you're using it in your job in a second. But before we get into it, you mentioned 3 tools there: Cassidy, Notion, and what was it? I can't remember the third one.
Typing Mind.
Tell us about those 3 tools.
Okay, so Notion is a database. So Notion is what we use for creating knowledge bases and evaluation systems. Once you put an agent through its paces, you have to log the performance. So, when you're starting out, they start out as assistants, and assistants over time, humans and AI together evaluate the performance of, you give them a job. Just think of it as an intern. You're teaching them your business, your voice, your processes, and you teach them and they learn by doing, and you give them these tasks, and then you have to evaluate just like any manager would. You evaluate their performance and you give them feedback, and you have to have a way of recording that feedback so they can also learn from the past record. So wow. Notion is a database where you store all of that information, and you give them information to, like a library of your website, your brand guides, and all of those things. So learning that in and of itself was interesting and never knew it existed. Typing Mind is an amazing tool. It is a dev environment where you can have access to almost every LLM that you can think of. And you test out and build all of your agents in this dev environment. And again, you start testing them, and it's a lot less expensive than going into Cassidy. Cassidy is an exceptional build tool. It's similar to, I think you're familiar with Make or
yes.
N8N. There's a lot of building platforms. Cassidy is similar to that.
Got it. Excellent. Yeah. So Notion was something which I've used, I played around with. It strikes me as it's a much more intuitive version of a wiki, in the sense that it's you're able to create essentially pages that people can access and share. You can share resources much more easily, but it's so easy to use. And I think it allows you to spin up pretty good pages pretty quickly. We use make.com in the stuff that we're doing. Yeah, it's very interesting. By the way, for anybody listening, I'm going to get all the links to all of the people that Susan's mentioned and all of the resources, and there's going to be a long list of links down in the show notes. Okay, so you're up the learning curve. Now tell us about how you're applying this in your work.
I use AI 100% every single day in my daily workflow. There's so many use cases. It's just now ingrained in what I do. I do deep research pretty regularly. You're researching the market, your competitors, data center trends. I'm using it to, you never have a blank page anymore. You have a 24/7 thought partner in AI. It's really fun. It's really cool. You can ideate. You can create outlines to get you started. You can help it to refine campaign messaging, copy, headlines, A/B, tailoring messages to personas. I use it for video creation. We use HeyGen as a tool and Descript. Recently, we had remotely recorded a customer testimonial, got the transcript from the third party who helped us with that, and previously we would have spent $200 or $300 for them to give us, social snippets or extras that we would want to use. We do all of that ourselves in-house now. You can take that transcript from the testimonial recording and turn it into multiple. I think the last one we just did, we had 7 different assets for social. And then you take the transcript and then you help build an outline for a written case study that goes along with it. So the time to delivery now and the resources that you have to do your work is amazing. HeyGen we just had one of our third parties who helps manage our Google campaigns. We gave him video and he was doing some video ads for us. And he's like, we should probably have some intros and outros branded. And you're probably going to need to hire some voiceover person to do that. And I'm like, nope, I could do that. So hey, Jen, we have it done less than 30 minutes. It's incredible.
What's the difference in HeyGen and Descript?
They're very similar. I think HeyGen is deep into avatars. They I hate to keep naming all these new tools, but there's another platform called 11 Labs that only worked with voice. But HeyGen is combining avatars, voiceovers. You can pick any accent, any male, female, and then just narrate. You give it a script and it narrates it for you. It's different. I love both tools for different use cases. I use Descript primarily for editing video. So it's amazing to me now. I've been in marketing for a long time and editing video used to be something time consuming and painful. Now you can drop in transitions, drop in all kinds of graphics, and you can cut scenes, you can cut entire paragraph. I call it paragraphs because it's like a Word document, is that if you don't want this section to this section or this sentence to be in your final product, you just hide it or delete it. That's crazy to me. It's just amazing.
It's nuts. That's cool. So talk about some of the agents that you're building and how you're using those agents in the work that you're doing, or maybe that's a work in progress that you're planning on.
Agents. I have built about 50 agents.
Wow.
Yeah. Everything that you can possibly imagine or envision and help you with your daily workflow. It's just amazing. I've created research agents. I've created utility agents to help me format things. I've created brand agents. I created an email agent who is trained on my voice and how I like to write emails, even down to a subject line. I'm very particular about how I send messages out. And I trained an agent on how to do that so it can draft my emails. I never let them send it. There's a human in the loop and I always review them, but it's amazing.
I wanted to drill down on that one a bit because I think it's relatively easy to create a GPT, a custom GPT to do something like that. Mm-hmm. What is it that's different from an agent perspective? I mean, what's different in terms of the experience or the workflow?
So custom GPTs are fantastic. They elevate an LLM and they personalize them to you. You can give them instructions. You can give them your brand voice. You can give them resources to really improve the output. So custom GPTs are all about context and consistency. So you're giving more context to the model so that it does what you want it to do better. The difference between a custom GPT and an agent, there's a step in between. As we talked about, there's an assistant. An assistant is connected to not only your brand voice, but it's given, a library. You give it a knowledge base. You can plug in tools. And from an assistant perspective, you start working with an assistant and you show it what good looks like. And you iterate and then you evaluate and there's a rubric. There's a set of instructions, but a grading system. So how well did you do the thing that I asked you to do? And you use, a human in the loop and you use AI to help you evaluate so that you keep refining those outputs. And when they get good enough, then you graduate them to an agent. So an agent means that they have agency. You give them a task, you give them the instructions, and you let them think through how to get to the output. Giving them, there's guidelines and guardrails that the human has put in place. There's extensive system instructions. you can connect them to two different tools and see how the different tools change the output. So agents bring LLMs to a completely different level.
I think that is one of the best descriptions I've heard of the differences. I'm going to make sure that when we produce the blog that accompanies this, that is really clearly in there. That's such a really simple, elegant description of it. You were telling us about some of the other agents that you were building before I jumped in there. Tell us about some of the other agents and tools that you're building.
Sure. My favorite one is always the last one that I built. So I built an intake agent called Cipher. Cipher gets triggered when somebody goes to my website and schedules time on my calendar. So once that the trigger, it starts a workflow, Cipher goes to work researching the company, the industry, the people who are going to be on the call, their LinkedIn profiles. They do a SWOT analysis of their business. And then the workflow combines all of that and all of those findings into a sales brief, and it sends me an email. It takes 3 to 5 minutes and it costs about $1.50.
Fantastic. That's remarkable. That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I think one of your superpowers is a pragmatic view of what the future looks like. Because I think that a lot of people, when ChatGPT came along and people started to play around with it, was they had one of three reactions in simple terms. One is, wow, this is cool. Let me get on with my job. Or this is cool. Oh my God, this could have all kinds of negative impacts. I'm going to pretend it's not here. And then I think folks like yourself who are looking at this and saying, this is going to be a big disruptor. It's going to change things. If I embrace it, maybe I can figure it out. And I've got a kind of a view about what I think will change. So I think you've got a very pragmatic view of the future impact that this is happening. And I think in the way that you're operating your marketing team, I mean, you've got a small marketing team, right? It's you and a couple of people, maybe? Two people.
Hopefully one is coming on board on Monday.
Okay, great. Okay, well, now I've had conversations with a lot of marketing teams, and everybody's playing, as I mentioned, there's I think it's sort of close to 100% of marketing teams are using AI in some capacity. But in the survey that we conducted with the Health Tech Marketing Network, less than 8% of marketing teams are using it in a strategic way, which basically means that they've actually sort of basically AI enabled their operations to any real extent. They're sort of, other than individuals using it to do their job a little bit better. I did have a conversation, and it's actually in an episode that's coming up, with Nick Panay, who's the CMO of Inovalon. And he's got a big marketing team. I think it's over 90 people. But what they've done in terms of AI enabling their operations is extraordinary. I mean, I really think it's definitely on the cutting edge in our industry. And I think, frankly, for many marketing teams. But what you've done, I think, is the other end of the spectrum in terms of scale. There's a lot of people in our community who have small marketing teams, or a marketing team of basically a marketing team of one. And I think for them, the potential is even greater, but it's even harder for them to come up that learning curve because they don't have the resources. So I'm so curious, first of all, where do you think this is going? What do you think it's going to look like in a few years? And then we'll come back to some advice that you could give for people like yourselves.
I think there is going to be a fundamental shift in how marketing teams are structured. I think agents are going to definitely be part of your team. Workflows are going to be embedded into every aspect of the business, not just marketing. It will probably start with marketing because we tend to be the trailblazers of an organization. I think leaders are going to be managing people teams who work alongside agent teams to get the job done. I think that I can see that happening in very short order, in 2 years max.
2 years. Wow. You know what? You could be right. I think
so.
Yeah. So
bigger organizations, I should clarify, larger enterprise level organizations are going to take longer because it takes longer for the ship to move. But organizations that want to compete, you got to compete with Agent Force, with Agent AI. And I think it's important for people to see what's coming and not shy away from it. Just kind of embrace it and learn, because if you don't, you're going to be on the sidelines for sure.
I 100% agree. Okay, it raises an interesting question to me, which is everybody's under pressure to do more with less. So arguably, what you've described enables a small marketing team, any marketing team, to do more, right? You can just basically, if you've got things set up right, your team can go and do so much more. What I'm not sure about is the less part of it. Does it mean that CEOs are going to be saying to all of their departments, including marketing, okay, you've got to cut people? I mean, that is happening in some organizations. I haven't heard that in our industry. I haven't heard, I was pleasantly surprised when we did the research that the questions from the CEO are not like, how can you get rid of people and replace them with AI agents? It's more, how can you help us? This is great. These tools are really cool. Show me how you use it to increase the top line.
Now, you've seen that with Mark Benioff in his own organization. You know, he very publicly said that he had a 9,000 person workforce that he was cutting back to 5,000 because he just didn't need 4,000 heads. And that was very public, but very privately, he's now hiring those people back. So I don't think that they're there.
Very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of this is grandstanding of saying, I'm doing a layoff, but rather than a layoff being a negative thing, which is our business is not good, is we're doing it in a positive way. I kind of think it's maybe AI washing. But, you know, I worry for the 20 somethings or even some of the young, even some of the 30 somethings, but particularly the 20 somethings who are coming out of college or in like year two or, years 1, 2, or 3. They have the opportunity because, arguably they're always more sort of tech facile to teach everybody how to use this stuff. That's at one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is there's not the space for you. We don't need you because we've got agents doing what we had the more inexperienced people doing in the past. And that worries me a lot.
I think smarter organizations will take a different approach. It's short-sighted to say that I'm not going to hire young people because I have agents who can do that work. Your workforce is aging. That experience has to come from somewhere. You have to teach the humans how to manage the tech and how to manage the agents. I could have the best agentic workforce in the world, but they're still going to break. LLM, these big companies keep dropping new models. They ship updates. And that sometimes causes the agents to not perform the way that you thought. There's maintenance that's required. So if you don't think that you need people to help manage these systems, I think it's a mistake. So if it's my organization, I'm bringing in young people who have a different, fresh perspective, who have AI skills, but you can teach them. They can learn from your more tenured people in your company because they're still human things. Managing is managing. You have to, to be a good leader, you have to listen. And machines don't listen. All of those human attributes need to be taught and learned somewhere. So I think it's really critical for people to give young people an opportunity in your business to work alongside these agents and learn how these agents work and fix them when they break. That's a really critical piece to all of this. Someday we may get to a point where that is on my wish list. If I had a self-healing agent who could do all of the maintenance when things go awry, that'd be amazing. But I don't think we're anywhere near that yet.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm kind of relieved to hear it. Susan, as we bring this to a close, what advice do you have for people who are sort of standing there thinking, I need to do this, but I don't know where to start. And I don't have our time in the day. They're both overwhelmed by the opportunity and the threat. And they're also overwhelmed by the lack of time that they have. What advice would you give to them now to start on the journey that you've been on?
I think it depends on where you are on your AI journey. If you're just beginning, I would pick one small, low-risk use case and experiment. Try using AI to turn a research paper into patient-friendly talking points or, summarize an FDA update for providers. Those kinds of small, little harmless things will be a single step that you can take to give you hands-on experience and build your confidence. Nothing's going to break. The AI, you can have a conversation now. It's just amazing to me. If you're not comfortable typing, just have a conversation. You're not sure where to start. Say, you know what? I've never used an LLM before. I don't know where to start. Where should I start? It will give you a lot of good ideas. It's amazing. I think if you're standing on the sidelines and you're afraid, the biggest piece of advice I could get is do it scared. If you're afraid of something, jump in, because this isn't going away and it's something really important for you to learn. Take baby steps to learn it. There are a ton of resources out there, free resources that can help you get started. There's a ton of them I can share. I'm happy to have a conversation if anybody wants to. There's a lot of things that you can do to just get started. And if you're a little bit further along and you've been dabbling with AI and you've been, having chats and you're really not getting the outputs, it's usually probably a learning curve from how to talk to it, learning how to prompt. And if you don't know how to prompt and you don't have the resources to take a formal course, there's a lot of free ones out there. And AI can also help you learn how to prompt. Just ask it. It's amazing.
Susan, this has been a terrific conversation. I've learned a lot. I know anybody else listening to this will learn a lot. And above all, I think they'd be inspired by it. I certainly have. I want to thank you for sharing so openly about the journey you've been on, or the journey you're on. I mean, it's not like you've arrived there, right?
No. No. And that's the other thing about AI is that it's not deterministic. It's not like you're learning Excel. It's not like, in the past, we're used to software where I want to be an Excel guru and I'm going to either take class or I'm going to take some lessons and I'm going to learn functions and pivot tables and I'm graduate to macros. And then I'm going to be a guru. I'm going to know all the things. I'm going to have the experience and I'm going to master Excel. This is changing so fast. You are understanding that you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, understanding that there's no end game. This is a continual learning journey and kind of switching your mindset to know I'm on it. I'm in it. And I'm going to keep learning and keep expanding my experience with it so I can get better. That's the biggest takeaway for me, is just understanding that this is ongoing. I'm in.
Susan, thank you very much for taking part in today's episode.
Thank you.
What a fantastic conversation. Huge thanks to Susan for bringing us so much clarity and for being so generous in sharing your experience so candidly and openly. I've got 4 quick takeaways that I want to leave you with. First of all, AI is a human systems story. So Susan's click moment was realizing that this isn't just about shiny tools. It's about how teams learn, how teams work, and how teams can evolve together. And this works once you start working together on it. So start integrating now or risk watching from the sidelines. The second is that there's a ladder. When you're building tools, you start with the simple stuff, which is custom GPTs. The next thing is to build an AI assistant. And then the third step is to start building agents and agentic workflows. So agents, the difference is that custom GPTs give you context and consistency. Assistants learn with rubrics and feedback. Agents earn autonomy, but they own it after evaluation and always with humans in the loop throughout the process. The third thing was this notion that tooling that compounds. So you might want to start with a lightweight tech stack. Susan talked about Notion for knowledge and evals, Typing Mind to test agents across LLMs, Cassidy for building workflows, and then video tools like Descript and HeyGen for creating videos in an iterative way. The other thing is this notion of agents as teammates. So Susan's created Cipher, which is an intake agent, and that will do things like trigger from a calendar booking to auto-research the company and the people who've scheduled a meeting, run a SWOT analysis, and then email a tight brief in 3 to 5 minutes to the person who's going to be taking that call. I mean, it's really kind of amazing when you think about it. One more important point that Susan made is agents are not going to eliminate people. Well, maybe a little bit, but that's not really the threat. I would encourage you, like Susan, to think about AI as an opportunity where people manage, guide, and fix the agents. So models are going to change, tools are going to be updated, things are going to break. Your team's judgment becomes even more valuable, not less. So if this helped you and you enjoyed it, please follow it, subscribe to it, give us a thumbs up, either on your podcast application, give us a positive rating, please, or give it a thumbs up on YouTube. The other thing you might want to do is share this episode with anyone that you think might benefit from me. By the way, you can book a call with me at any time if you want to talk about this stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff with AI. Yeah, we're learning as we go, but we've come quite a long way and might be able to help you with that. So always happy to do that. You can book a call through the link down below. So thanks again to you for listening. And thanks again to our sponsors, HIMSS and Healthcare Now Radio. See you next time.